Hey guys, I want to talk to you guys about something, call it cultural Christianity. And in Deuteronomy 12, it talks about not adopting any of the practices of the nations and how they worship, because all the ways that they had worshipped were evil. But then it also kind of ends that statement by saying that you shall not add nor subtract from the commandments that the Lord has given. And we have a tendency to do this in our cultural Christianity, where we add in our own definitions and our own terms of righteousness. And one of the ways in which that we do this is in the way that we speak. And I know this is going to be somewhat controversial, so I would ask you to kind of listen into the end. In our society, we have words that are considered taboo or inappropriate, cuss words, which then in turn get renamed to curse words, and then in turn take Bible verses out of context and say, that you're not to curse, and so on and so forth. And it's through this kind of hand-me-down Christianity or cultural Christianity that we come about defining these terms, when in reality there's no biblical precedent for using certain words, using certain vocabulary. In fact, when you go to Isaiah and it talks about that our righteousness is as filthy rags, the filthy rags, the actual Hebrew word is a used menstrual garment. Essentially he tells them that your righteousness is as good as a used tampon. When Jesus is talking about how that if you curse your brother, that you're in danger of hellfire, he uses the term raka, which that word raka comes from the word, the actual Greek word that he uses there comes from the word that we get our word idiot or moron from. And we have to understand that what cuss words are in our culture. They are essentially slang cultural terms that mean certain things. Now, I say all that to say this. Is it wrong to say shit instead of feces? No. Vocabulary makes no difference. Not scripturally, not otherwise. Does our society view that as wrong? Yes, it does. But that's got more to do with social class than it does with any sort of biblical usage of the word. Now, is it more culturally acceptable, or is it more biblically acceptable, rather, for me to say, eat feces and die, or for me to say, I love that shit? And the idea being is that it's not the vocabulary word that in and of itself means anything. It's the context in which the word is used. It is no more acceptable for me to say eat feces and die than for me to say eat shit and die. It's the usage of the word that matters. Now here's the thing. If a brother views it as sinful, and you realize that you have the freedom to use whatever vocabulary, that it's not the word itself that is inherently sinful, but the usage of the word, but a brother views it as sinful, is it then sinful for you to use that language in front of him and cause him to violate his conscience? Yes, in that case it is, because now you're in a situation where you're causing a brother to go against his conscience and possibly the prompting of the Spirit. So in that context, it would be unloving and improper for me to do so. But is it inherently sinful to use a particular word, or rather to not use a particular word in some cases? And the answer is no. There's absolutely no biblical precedent for vocabulary being used. There is strong language used throughout Scripture, including Paul, who, when talking about circumcision, tells the Judaizers that instead of just circumcising, he wishes that they would just cut their manhood completely off. I mean, there's strong language throughout Scripture. It's not the language that is inappropriate. It is the heart and the motivation behind the language, which is then communicated through the context of how those words are used. So that's something that I kind of steered away from sharing, but I wanted to provide a little bit of context. I'm interested in any verses that you feel conflict with this point of view. If I'm wrong, I welcome any rebuke. But I would encourage you to look at all of the proof texts that are used to support these particular this particular viewpoint, and look at them in context. Look at the entire chapter. Look at the chapter before then, and figure out what it is that they're actually speaking about. They're not speaking about a specific vocabulary word. They're speaking about context and the heart of the individual who is using the word. So anyway, something I wanted to share with you guys today. All right, God bless.